Hey guys, it's me, Dr. Karen from Abundant Health Chiropractic. I wanted to do this preemptive class. I know that we have a live class coming up of our detox with the doc, but weather permitting, I just wanted to get this out there so that that way, for all of you that want the information and maybe are not able to come to our class, I just wanted to get this. So why don't we get started? Let me share this up for us. As you can tell, I'm trying to get cozy myself. My fireplace behind me. Um, so so I'm Dr. Karen from Abundant Health Chiropractic. Most of you probably recognize me from the office, but I'm sure we have some new listeners and I'm here today too. If you like the information that you find here, please subscribe to us or reach out to us. I'll put our information below for you to find us as well. So let's get started. So why should we detox? Just obviously, a lot of us know already. There are toxins all over and all around in the things that we breathe, the things that we eat. It's unfortunate, but toxins are everywhere. And so, even just looking at this list here, you can see some of the highest risk toxins to the human body. Now, I'm not going to go through each and every single one of these, but you can already clearly read a lot of this stuff. So, the things that I'm more so concerned are not necessarily the big toxins like these, although they are around us. It's the slow poisons that we find all around us all the time. And these are things that, although are not going to have a good effect on us, they typically take a much longer time for them to have noticeable harmful effects. So if you were to just take a whole bunch of arsenic, we all know that that would kill us fast. Same thing with if we were to, sit there and just chomp on some mercury or lead, obviously that would not be good choices short term. But unfortunately, we make those decisions each and every single day when we eat a lot of these processed foods or use chemicals in our house that are slowly killing us. We're not doing anything about it. And unfortunately, these corporations that create these products are unfortunately not here for our health. Maybe in their advertisements, they might have very healthy, sounding statements, but if you were to sit in their private boardrooms, I bet you anything, a lot of their mission statements really are not about our health, but their bottom line. And unfortunately, a lot of people find safety with these corporations, even when they really shouldn't. So these slow poisons are here to not kill you today, but by tomorrow. And so the microscopic damage that it does to our organs is what causes a lot of chronic disease. And so tonight, that's what we're going to be talking about is how can we limit some of these things and really help longevity and us to function and live our best lives. So where can we find a lot of these toxins? Well, first of all, you're going to find a lot of environmental toxins all around us, such as pollution, the exhaust from our cars, a lot of our cleaning products. There's heavy metals in a lot of things, pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, radiation, things that we inhale. We could also find them in our lifestyle. So, our diets, especially when we look at fast food, fried foods, we find it in our cosmetics, makeup, lotions, nicotine for those that smoke. That's a big one. Alcohol is another big one that I think in mainstream has finally started to wake people up to realize that alcohol is not really very good for us. Even a lot of the studies that have come out in the past really are showing that they're not quite as accurate as they were. Caffeine can also be another toxifier if not used properly. RX and OTC drugs, so over the counter drugs, if not used properly, can have a poor effect on us as well. Artificial food, additives, colorings, preservatives, and then, of course, things like refined foods and sugars, which we're going to get into more as well. And then we look at some of the internal things, such as bacteria that could be growing in our body, yeast infections, fungal problems or overgrowths. You could have byproducts of metabolic reactions, So obviously, when our body's not functioning properly, it's not able to break down or release a lot of the toxins out of our body. And so sometimes they sit there and obviously wreak havoc on our digestive tract. And then you could have undigested food that is not evacuating properly. Stress is a big one. A lot of people don't realize how stress can really impact their bodies and create a very toxic overload for us too, such as things like unresolved trauma, abuse, holding on to anger, frustration. Those are all things that if you don't have positive ways of getting rid of that, it's going to overall put more pressure on your body. And then, of course, unhappy relationships is a big one too. But why don't we get into things that we take into our mouth? Of course, one of the first things to think of would be our water. Water is a major, major thing that we need to focus on. And I would say for myself, in the office, when I'm talking to you guys or any other patients, typically my first suggestion is always making sure you're drinking enough water because 75% of people are dehydrated. And of those 75% people, most of them are chronically dehydrated. And so that sends signals to our body that says, hey, if we're not getting enough water, like it just ends up stopping the signals altogether so that our body is not reminding ourselves to drink water and, hey, I'm dehydrated. And so for your vital organs, especially things like the brain, we're not hydrating those things. And we really need to be making sure that we're paying attention to that, especially when we look at things like plastic water bottles. Fortunately, a lot of people use that as a way of getting more water into our bodies, which I appreciate. But unfortunately, the plastics, they leach into the water and are no good for us. So you always want to make sure that you have filtered water that is giving you a clean source because in the tap water, especially in the US, there are a lot of different chemicals that they put in the processing of it. So to clean the water, to make it taste better, to make it more fresh, they'll put in fluoride, they'll put in chlorine, they'll put in other heavy metals or other additives to give it those effects. And unfortunately, although you can't taste them, it's still going into your body. And so you want to watch out for that. So I always suggest getting some sort of filtration system. I myself have a Niken. A Berkey is really great too. There's a lot of whole house filters or larger filtration systems. If you don't want one that just sits on your counter, reverse osmosis. If you ever have questions about that kind of stuff, you could always reach out to me and we could always dive into a lot more options with that. So, but of course, hydration allows for your body to work more properly, especially into the lymphatic system. It allows your body to actually do detoxing, which of course is the main conversation of this talk tonight. And you always want to make sure you're drinking enough water. And so if you take your body weight and divide it by 2, that's how many ounces of water you should be having each day. You want to make sure that the water that you are drinking, again, is filtered, paying attention to what you're using. So, using plastic containers, especially ones from the stores, those really thin plastics are really bad. But even things that say that they're BPA free doesn't necessarily mean that they're healthy or safe either. Unfortunately, there's a lot of different chemical breakdowns of BPA as well as other plastic types that can still go into those bottles. And so I prefer always using some sort of stainless steel, Yeti here, a glass container. Overall, you just want to make sure that you're trying to downgrade as many plastics around you in your ecosystem. And here I even mentioned the types of plastics. So plastic number 3, 6, and 7. If you look on the bottom of something where it shows a recycling number, if you see those, avoid those ones. Of course, just making sure your filtration system is working correctly. And then let's talk about food. So, some foods to avoid would be things like, now you'll see some things on here at first that you might think are healthy, such as fruits and vegetables, and they are absolutely. But if you're getting them canned, especially in syrups or sauces that have a lot of sugar in them, you got to watch out for that kind of stuff because too much sugar obviously is going to put a lot more stress on your body. And then when we look at high sugar, or artificial juices. You can find a lot of that, especially with things like Welch's, grape juices, or a lot of artificial flavored croissants. Those types of things are not going to be as nutritiously dense as they should be. A lot of them are just sugar water. And then another one is going to be corn. I typically like to stay away from corn, and I'm not going to go on a soapbox tonight with you guys here. As many of you guys have heard in the office or in some of my other classes, corn is one of those things I always try to avoid as much as I can, just because there really is no such thing as a not genetically modified corn. Unfortunately, over the last 100 years, we've modified it to such a degree you can't even find normal corn anymore. Grains, of course, staying away from refined grains, and especially things that are enriched. What that means is the refining process basically is taking out the nutrients of the grains. And then a lot of times you'll find that they enrich those same breads or rice or any other grains, and they enrich it with other vitamins. Now, of course, those vitamins are not the natural ones that came from those grains, but instead are synthetic vitamins. So stay away from those. And then proteins, animals, you want to look out for things like conventional meats, conventional milk. Those are all animals that have been fed, unfortunately, refined grains or enriched grains, like we just talked about. So if your meat is or your animal that you're eating is eating unhealthy food, what does that make for you? So, again, if you eat an animal that is eating unhealthy and therefore itself is unhealthy, how can we think that we are going to be healthy eating that same meat? And then looking at processed meats like cold cuts, hot dogs, anything like that, they have a lot of preservatives, as well as because of the processing that they go through, there's a lot more chemicals that can be in those meats. A lot of times I like to pay attention to what it is that are in the ingredients. Of course, when you flip it over and you look and you see that all the ingredients, there's a long list, and it doesn't just say, beef, or it doesn't just say, comes from like a pig cutlet, then you know that those are more things that you're ingesting. So pay attention to that. And then some other things that I wanted to talk about, some sweeteners, artificial sweeteners, especially things like aspartame or corn syrup. Corn syrup is just horrible for you, especially high fructose corn syrup. It takes a huge chemical process to pull the sweetness out. And because of that, because it's a grain, there's really no oil in it. So to pull that out is such a process, and in the end becomes very poisonous. So that's for high fructose corn syrup as well as the corn oil, which is why I put them next to each other. And the margarine is basically a alternative to butter. And again, this is made out of corn or other synthetic materials and is more like plastic than it is actually living. And of course, anytime you're eating anything, you always want it to come from a living source or a whole food source, is what I mean. You don't want to eat things that were never alive in the first place. Canola oil is not a very good oil. Canola oil is just really not good for us. So we could touch on that another time, but just really stay away from that. I know a lot of health food people talked about it recently, but unfortunately, canola oil is not as healthy as people are saying. And then seed oils, that's been another hot topic lately, is making sure that you keep as many seed oils out of your food. I see a lot of restaurants around us slowly trying to change and get rid of a lot of those oils, even things like vegetable oils or corn oils, like we talked about earlier, or the peanut oils, etc. And then a lot of fried foods get put in those. So those kind of are one and the same, I would say, because if you go out to eat, more than likely the fried food that you're getting is from some sort of seed oil, canola oil, or corn oil that it's being cooked in. But either way, the way that that food's getting broken down is still not healthy. So stay away from fried foods if you can, or at least try and moderate it. 10 most toxic ingredients that we find in fast food. Now, as you can see from this slide here, reading through all of these, none of these really look like real food or whole food ingredients. And you'd be right because some of them are synthetic. Heck, even looking at natural beef flavor, it doesn't even have to come from actual beef, which is very sad. If you look at, according to the FDA and food industry, flavors like that do not qualify as an actual ingredient. So therefore, they can include a dozen different components, and that doesn't have to be written on anything. They just could just call it food flavor. It's sad because companies do not have to disclose any of those types of ingredients when they're flavor additives. But then looking at a lot of these other chemicals, a lot of them are banned in other countries. And so if they're banned in other countries, they're probably banned for a reason. And it's unfortunate that the US is so behind on that. But you look at some of these things like potassium bromide, which has a lot of health concerns, is banned in other countries. It could create things like skin irritations, headaches, impaired thinking, kidney damage. Those are just a few things to name. And a lot of these other chemicals also have very similar breakdowns, whether carcinogenic. If you look at even just the next one, the propylene glycol, it's actually an ingredient in a lot of other antifreezes. So that doesn't sound very tasty to me. So look up these. If you guys have any questions, reach back out. But I just wanted to point some of these things out that you can find in fast foods, whether McDonald's, Wendy's, Taco Bell. I mean, stay away from those places. They're really just not good overall. To recap on that, just try and eat as clean as you can. Things that don't have pesticides, herbicides, antibiotics, chemical additives. You don't always have to go organic, but if you can go organic, I usually suggest doing that. Now, there is some lists by the EWG that does testing of different fruits and vegetables each year. It's usually the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. So it gives you an idea of which ones you definitely want to make sure that you're eating organic, and the ones that maybe you could get away with just getting conventional, because typically if they have a more fibrous outside, those chemicals don't leach into the foods as much. So take a look at that. Eating fiber. Fiber helps your body to detoxify and break down more things faster. And so even when we do consume things that maybe are not as healthy or good for us, fiber helps us to at least get rid of it faster out of our body. All right, let's get into things that go in our nose. Okay, so just like the things that go into our mouth, every time we breathe in, we are breathing in molecules that are all around us. Some of those things, you know, unfortunately, are things around our house, are things that we do for freshness in our house. And so, my number one suggestion would be to get a filter, some sort of air filter, especially a HEPA filter or a carbon filter. Put one of those in your house. You can get a big one, or if you're trying to be more cost effective, you could even get a small one and put it by your bed in your room. Because think about it, of all the places that you spend most time in, it's probably going to be in your bedroom. And especially when you're sleeping, anywhere from 6 to 8 hours, which is why I suggest that being the number one place you want to make sure that you have as clean of air as possible. The next one we're going to talk about is some cleaning chemicals. So there are a lot of chemicals. If you look underneath your kitchen sink, or maybe you keep it behind your toilet or in a closet, if you look at a lot of the different companies that create cleaners, a lot of those things are not safe. And I suggest you want to make sure that your environment is something that is not only non-toxic, but something that you yourself feel comfortable being able to be around. Um, I usually use for myself things like vinegar, baking soda. If you're not into making your own cleaners, you could use Ecos or Seventh Generation. Those are fantastic companies that I also use in my home. At the end of the day, if I wanted to, I could take a little bit of vinegar or a little bit of baking soda, and if I put it on my tongue, I would still be here and I'd have no problem. But if you take any of the high cleaners that you find around your house and you try to do that, I would suggest don't. Okay. Unfortunately, none of those things are healthy or clean for your body. And overall, the long term use around your house can create things like clogged arteries, chronic liver disease. And so we want to make sure that we're clearing out a lot of those things from our home. And then other factors of things that we have in our nose are going to be things like air fresheners. I can go on another soapbox talking about this, but I will try and keep it short. Air fresheners in just at the end of the day can be hormone disrupting. And a lot of those air fresheners are synthetic. They destabilize our body and hormonal system, even when you look at some essential oils. Now, in our office, we love essential oils and we use very high quality, great grade essential oils. If you need any suggestions, we could always talk about those. I've used Young Living, doTERRA. Right now, we're using Revive. And so those are the three that I find that I like the most, but there are a few others out there that can be pretty good. Anything else, a lot of them, if you just find them off, any store shelf, a lot of them are very synthetic, which again, we want to stay away from synthetic things. So let's get into skin. So, to first start off with what we do with our skin, looking at water filtration. And so water filtration, just like we talked about before with what we ingest, we want to make sure that the water that we put onto our skin is also healthy. So, especially those of you like myself who like to take a nice hot bath or a long hot shower, that heat opens up your pores. And what it opens your pores up to is anything that's in the water. And so, if your water is just tap water and you're using that to use for your bath, wash your hands, to take a shower, you're getting all that fluoride, you're getting that chlorine and everything else to absorb into your skin and as you breathe while you're in the shower. So watch out for that. I like to make sure that I have some sort of filter on the shower head. And so you can spend, $40 to $60 on something like that, and it'll last you quite a few months. But the amount that it actually will help filter your water and make sure that you're not getting those toxins into your body is going to be so helpful. It's going to soften your hair. It's going to help you notice that you don't have as dry of skin. There's a lot of positives to having a water filter. A suggestion I have, one of the easy changes that we can make around our house are things like body lotion or soap. I want you to think about what is something that you put on your body or on your skin the most. Is it the shower gel? Is it your lotion? Is it whatever it is? Think about that. If you could change just that one thing for a healthier brand, like the amount that you are going to be helping out your body is immense. Um, and that could just be the first change that you do, even if it's just that one thing that you use the most. Because when I went into the store and I first got onto my healthy kick many, many years ago, I was looking at Dove, and that was a household brand that I thought was safe and that it was good for your skin. But when I turned it around and looked at the ingredients and I saw all the words on there that were not real words and were synthetic chemicals, I was shocked. And I'm sure you will be too now when you go home and you look at yours. But you want to make sure that you stay away from products that have that many toxic ingredients, especially when it's something that you use every single day or multiple times a day. Um, Another one is going to be fragrance. We kind of talked about that a little bit on the last slide with what we breathe in. But again, fragrances can be very synthetic and harmful to the body. Uh, if you even just change your product from a fragrance, something, even if you see it and you're like, wow, it's got lavender, a lot of those are synthetic fragrances, unless they say, or even essential oils can sometimes be synthetic, like we talked about. So if you change that product and go to an unscented version, I mean, that product alone, you're detoxifying by almost 50% already, just by going with unscented. So at the end of the day, that's a big plus. Um, another one, essential oils. Another one is going to be the parabens. A lot more people have started looking into this, especially those that are trying to quote unquote be more crunchy or more thoughtful or holistic in the purchases that they're doing. And so parabens are, again, another synthetic chemical that dries out the skin and overall is very toxic to the body. Or if you're even looking at the back of your products and you see just like a three-letter word with some numbers, again, that is also a very toxic chemical to the body and in general can create things like cancers of the colon, bladder, even in the breast. And so, if you're applying that each and every single day, you want to just make sure that you're staying away from products that have parabens in them. And then, of course, we want to make sure that we detox our mind. Okay. One way to do that is an attitude of gratitude. This is one of my favorites. Um, even just being thoughtful each and every single day with something that you're thankful for, grateful for. You can even go as far as writing down something that you're grateful for to really reiterate it, even if it's just one or two things. And of course, the more you do this and the more you practice it, the more it's going to help bring you joy, I promise you. You want to make sure that you're getting rid of the most toxic thing that you listen to. That could be things like the music you're listening to, or the news, or maybe drama that you hear at the workplace, or TV or talk shows, or, just something that gets you really riled up or upset or really gets you going, but not in a positive way. And I don't mean that you can get rid of your mother-in-law. No, I'm just kidding. But you want to make sure that the things that you have around you that you're listening to all the time are not things that are depressing you or making you more anxious. And it's been shown that people who overall are more negative are more likely to have neurodegenerative brain diseases, which could be things like Parkinson's, dementia, Alzheimer's are all more common with people who are negative and are putting themselves around more toxic lifestyles. Another thing that you can do, and whatever fits you, it could be meditating, it could be praying or reading the Bible, it could be doing affirmations. I mean, all of these things are positive for the brain. So you want to make sure that you are putting in good and not putting in bad because we want to make sure that we're getting rid of that. All right, so getting into detoxification, detoxification 101. This is going to be things like the elimination of our bowels. You should be having at least one per day. Ideally, it could be three times. If you're going less, then obviously your body's struggling or just not evacuating the way that it's supposed to. And adding things like fiber into the diet can obviously help with that. But in general, your body was made to have a detoxification, okay? To have this system of defense to make sure that our body doesn't hold on to these toxins so that we can improve. Obviously, by paying attention to what you put in your environment and all the things that we just recently talked about can really help you, just like stress. I mean, unfortunately, you're not going to get rid of all the toxins in your environment, but at least if you lessen it and live an 80-20 rule, which is what I try to live myself, where I try to eliminate 80% of all the things I have control over so that that way the 20% I don't have control over, I'm not as affected by. And I say that by even little things like if you ever see me at the grocery store or any other store that has a perfume aisle or the detergent aisle, you will never see somebody run through it faster than myself because I try to stay away from those perfumes and all the fragrances that those things have. So again, just pay attention to your environment and do the best you can. That's where you're going to see the most changes. And again, to sum up some of those things that we talked about, avoiding sugar, making sure you are not drinking tap water or plastic water bottles, and just especially avoiding plastics in general with food or water. And then making sure that you have clean air, whether that is through opening a window and having ventilation or having some sort of filter changing around your cleaning supplies. I try to make some of mine, but I know that's not always easy. So switching one or two of your cleaning supplies to something more healthy is going to be a huge game changer for you. And again, like the natural skin and body care, if you could take one of those and also make that a less toxic or chemically inclined product, and you find something that's more natural based, you're going to be so much better off. And then when you can, buy organic, try to get unprocessed whole foods, and you'll see major changes with your body. So I'm excited for your journeys as you go through those things. Some other ways that we can detox is through movement. Okay. Exercise. We all know that we need to get exercise, but most of us do not get quite enough or are not getting the right kind. Having a minimal aerobic impact exercise, even just a couple times a week, can substantially get our body and lymphatics moving so that we can start that process of elimination, whether from our skin, through sweat, whether through breathing, and allowing some of that to come out that way, or even some of the other ways that our body eliminates as well. Um, and so when we're breathing, we're eliminating carbon dioxide. When we're moving and sweating, we're also getting out toxics that way. And in general, your body needs to move, which of course is where I come in the office. So many of you guys have come and seen me for chiropractic, and there's a reason why we focus on more than just aches and pains, because chiropractic can help with so much more. Getting the body to move properly allows for not only for the muscles, ligaments, and tendons to work properly, but also for our nervous system to be able to function. And so from this diagram, you can see where the brain sends information down the spinal cord, out the nerves to every cell, tissue, organ in our body. And so our body is affected by each and every single one of those organs. And if our nervous system isn't functioning properly and sending the correct information, well, then those organs are not going to work the way that they're supposed to. You can look at kind of where our body's mapped through the spinal nerves. And so this is a diagram that I show pretty much each and every single one of my patients when they come in. But if you specifically look at some of these, like close to T9, T10, you have liver function. Um, when you look in those same areas or even lower into the thoracic and upper lumbar, you see things like weight gain. You have cravings for sugar, fat. You have increased sensitivity to pain, but you also have things like poor digestion. You have constipation, diarrhea, irritable bowel syndrome. I mean, the list goes on and on. And so our body is affected by certain things. And sometimes when our nervous system is not functioning at its best level, these areas are not able to process correctly. And therefore, no matter how well you eat or how well you move, if these areas are not working correctly, this might be your game changer. So if you've never seen a chiropractor, of course, give us a call, or you can always reach out to us and we can find someone near you. But again, making sure the nervous system is functioning. And then how do we know if we are overly toxic? I mean, you can see from this diagram from this woman here. This is kind of where we're going to get into the nitty gritty of actual detoxification, other than the suggestions we already did. But here are some warning signs. And so, first and foremost, you might see some aches and pains, muscle aches, or even just joint discomfort. Things like fatigue, sluggishness, that sluggish feeling, exhaustion. Um, you can have difficulty losing weight, or weight loss resistance. Sometimes we get that belly fat that just won't go away. Like I talked about on the nerve diagram, sometimes we get food cravings that just are not going away and unfortunately are not helping us with that stubborn weight. You can have brain fog, uh, difficulty concentrating. You can get headaches. You can get difficulty sleeping or insomnia. You can see, irritability or mood swings. Obviously, things like skin problems are a big one, such as like acne, breakouts, rashes, eczema, itchiness, getting dark circles under the eyes or even puffy eyes. If you ever get like a white film on the tongue, chronic nausea, that's a big one. Hormonal imbalances, especially because of the thyroid, having issues from decreased thyroid hormone production, if your liver's not working at its best, if you get really bad body odor, bad breath, constipation, or other digestive disturbances like gas bloating, these are all chronic signs that your liver's not processing these toxins well enough or quick enough. And so you might make some of those changes that I suggested earlier. But here's the thing, if you make some of those changes and you're still not seeing the results that you need, there's a chance that you might need to do something a little more intensive. And that's what we'll talk about. But oof, I need to detox. If you have a liver and you have a kidney, then you're detoxing, which is absolutely correct. But again, depending on how toxic your lifestyle is, they might struggle trying to get all of it out. And so, right now, we are starting a detoxing program in our office. So, we're getting a lot of us to get started on it. But for the next couple weeks, we're really going to be focused on how can we best process our body and detoxify. And so things like obviously fat is created to protect the body from the toxins, impurities, and of course can create weight gain. And um, the reason for that is because our organs need to stay safe. And so fat is created to protect us from the toxins that sit around our organs, and it pulls all those toxins to the fat. So this is where our body just stores it um, when there's too much to be flushed out. Okay. When you lose body fat and the toxins therefore get pushed closer to your organs, whether through cutting calories or exercising, any way in general where you lose fat, if your body isn't geared or programmed to be able to flush that out well enough or fast enough, it then feels fatigued, overwhelmed, and creates more fat to push all of those toxins back out, back into the fat cells. So basically, you're rebounding and starting all over again, which is why a lot of people suffer from stubborn weight loss. And so true detoxification is when your body creates that change where your body's actually processing the toxins as quickly as they come in, but you're also stopping the toxins from coming in and allowing your body some time to relax and heal properly and let it out. And so you release that excess fat. And so for a lot of people, that might be their main goal that they're looking for with a detox program. But overall, you want to make sure that you're maintaining your body to be healthy and clean. And so, of course, some benefits to detoxification. I don't know why my slides are acting a little weird, but they were doing that earlier too. So I guess just bear with me. But the first benefit is going to be the fact that it cleanses the liver. Okay. The liver is in charge of 500 plus things around your body. So it's got a lot of functions, and we need to make sure that each and every single one of those functions is working correctly. And so we want to make sure that the liver is as healthy as possible. But some other things too are the fact that you can have healthier skin. Again, we talked about eczema, rashes, itchiness, all of the things that can be irritations to the skin. This can help clear those out. And then we can quote unquote put out the fire. So inflammation and other stressors around the body. This allows our body to flush that out and heal properly. It can aid in weight loss, like we were just talking about, as well as better mental focus. I don't know about you, but I don't know who doesn't need better mental focus, especially in a world that we are in today where we are so driven by stress and cortisol. Having better mental fortitude and focus is essential. I think all of us can benefit from that. All right, cool. But anyways, thank you guys so much for spending tonight with me, learning about toxins within our body. Of course, if you ever have any questions, please reach out to me personally. I'm going to leave all my information below so that that way, if you want to contact me via phone, text, email, website, however you want to do it, please, please, please do. I want to make sure that I can help you and your family live a healthier lifestyle. If you're ever interested in knowing more about any of the topics we talked about tonight or any that maybe we didn't talk about tonight, we do have classes all the time in our office. They are free and we would love to invite you. So please get on our newsletter list so that that way we can send out information to you if you're interested. And then, of course, if some of this stuff spoke to you tonight and you're interested in doing a more detailed detox, something that you work personally with me, the provider, I can help work out something with you too. So again, thanks again for joining me tonight. I appreciate it. And I hope that you took away some information. So have a great night. Bye.